If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up. Thank you.
Good morning. Is this Rudy?
Good morning, Patrick. Yes, this is Rudy.
Bless you. Good morning to you. I just wanted to touch base with you, brother, and thank you for the Bible and for all that you're doing. I have an idea, and I want you to think about it, and it would be nice if you were able to act on it.
Okay.
Now, a couple of days ago, Mr. Trump advised these professional players that instead of kneeling at the national anthem, why don't they give him a list of people that they thought had been mistreated by the justice system? Now, if it's possible, can you contact him in some way and lead him to the online thing that you have placed online for me, and along with Agnes's statement that she's going to get a hold of you sometime this week too, and remind you to do the same thing, hopefully. I think that it would be in our best interest right now, and it would, if it works right, it would get me home sooner.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement with you. I think this audio here with you requesting. Here's the deal: getting his attention is the key, right? And I don't know what the secret to that. I don't know what the secret to that is, but I'll put out this audio of everyone to request Donald Trump to look at your case and to evaluate you for a pardon, as well as we have many others that are, also in need of a pardon. But the challenge that I see, and I know what you're referring to when you talked about the NFL players, but I just don't know how to get Donald Trump's attention. But I think that we should all try.
That's one of the things. I also want to thank you for going the extra distance in doing the things that you're doing, not only for me but for everyone that's innocent incarcerated.
No, amen. Thank you for those encouraging words. Let me ask you, this gentleman. I did try to reach out to this gentleman. You mentioned he was the husband of this judge, and he was going to write a book about you. So I wanted to let you know I did try to reach out to him, but he's very hard to get a hold of as well. So if you have any other ideas, let me know.
Well, I have a phone number that and an address that I got the statement from him last. It's been 15 months ago now. I was at Coyote Ridge and requested that he fulfill his bargain that he made to his wife before she passed away, and please send me the affidavits regarding what she had requested of him to do everything that he could to get me free. And so I didn't expect anything to return from it. And it turned around within 10 days. He had sent me that statement that we're copying now and sending to different ones. Also, the court case is in San Francisco. Did Agnes give you the number of that case?
I don't believe so. She did mention she was going to call me back.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on just a minute. It's in U.S. Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit, and the case number is 18-70959.
Okay. All right.
And it's Hoffman versus Holbrook is the short one, and the circuit rule is Rule 25-1. Anybody that has information or any input into that is welcome to call or write them. There should be something on Facebook like you're doing that's regarded with that Agnes has contacted with people over there in Holland. She has a couple of younger ladies that are also married to prisoners that will be getting out soon, and they formed a prisoner wife club over there. So
okay, yep, I've seen that before. Yeah,
it's a good thing. Yes.
Yeah, I understand.
It's a good thing, and it helps keeps their focus together and working on things, and they specialize because they've got other jobs and stuff, but they specialize in trying to help this one right now because I'm important in Agnes's life and she is important in theirs, so we're trying to do
Amen.
those good things that way.
Amen, amen. Hey, Mr. Hoffman, you've been in prison for nearly 32 years. Is that true?
Yes.
Wow.
August 29th will be the anniversary.
Incredible. That's a very, very, very long time. It's amazing you've maintained your sanity. Do you mind giving the... Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I lose it from time to time, but...
Well, you've got a sense of humor after all this time. This gentleman who's writing this book about you, do you want to give his information, his name and phone number and address again, in case someone can try to reach out to him once more?
Yes, I can. I don't have a problem with it. He may. The man has a home in state of Washington and in Arizona, and he travels to Arizona during the winter months and in Washington during the summer months. Now, the address that I have for him is Richard G. Allenbaugh, Alumbaugh.
Okay.
5873 South, just an S, South Henderson Canyon Drive.
Okay.
Green Valley, Arizona. Zip code is 85622-6321. And phone number I have is 520-207-2687.
Okay, let me just read that back real quick. Richard G. Allenbaugh, 5873 South Henderson Canyon Drive, Green Valley, Arizona, 85622-6321 with a phone number of 520-207-2687.
Yes, very good, very good.
I'm going to try my best to reach him, and hopefully, he'll respond. I think he's kind of key to this because he may have some information which could, share about your case.
He may be a little bit sensitive because she passed away in 2004, and he didn't come and see me until towards the end of 2006. I was still at Monroe then, and my previous wife, had just was in the process of filing a divorce that winter, and it took the money that my dad had left me after his passing at Antietam View in Yakima, Washington. He was in prison there, and he passed away, and he had a federal savings account that was split up between the brothers and sisters, and I received $38,000 from that, and I let my previous wife have control of it. I told her to put it in a bank account so that we could get an attorney. She had received inheritance from her father's passing in the amount of a $250,000 life insurance policy, and then her mother 2 years later she received from her another $250,000. She had that before that, and I wanted to ask her to pay for an attorney, and I didn't. I left it up to her because I didn't want to try to control her or anything. But I had earmarked the money that Dad left me for that, and she, during the lawsuit and stuff, claimed that she gave that money to me, and by giving me the bank account. Well, the bank account was empty, and there's been no further contact. Every time I tried to contact her by phone or by mail, there was never any response. So
I see.
And on top of that, she filed in another county. She filed in Lincoln County so that she could maintain that she and I were still together, to friends and relatives there, where she lives in Omak.
I see.
I don't know the whys and the wherefores. We just reached a point to where we couldn't get along, and at the time I thought it was a heartbreaking thing. But in looking past it now to where Agnes and I are together, it was a pathway where we had to go, because it led to Agnes and I finding each other, knowing that the other person, the love of our life, was out in the world someplace, and we had to find them. That was our calling in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So
I can tell by talking to Agnes. I can tell by talking to Agnes that she loves you very much, and so it's you're very blessed to have found her. Let me ask you a quick question before our time runs out. Richard G. Allenbaugh, when is the last time you heard from him? Do we think he might have passed away, or do you think he's still alive?
He should be still alive. I didn't. He claimed in the letter that he wrote me back with this that he was near finishing the book that was supposed to come out on my case, Dad's and I's case, to try to help give a different view than what the slanted view the prosecutor gave. The prosecutor prepared flagrant. It wasn't flagrant. It was false, completely false. The thing that he tried to portray was that I had supernatural powers to be in three places at once to be able to shoot these officers. Yet I didn't have the weapon that he claimed that was the one that killed the officer. And upon having Dad's attorney look at the removal of the bullet from Elmer during mid-trial, the photographs of the bullet that came out of my dad and the bullet that came out of the officer are alike. So if they're alike, my dad wouldn't shoot himself, and there was, if you look at the positions of where they were at the time, the only one that was possible to shoot the officer and kill him was the officer ahead of him, because that officer claimed that he had been shot from behind, and at trial he said that he turned around and returned fire. Well, if that's the case, then they shot each other.
You know what might be good. You know what might be good, Mr. Hoffman. At some point, maybe during another phone call or when you've had more of a chance to prepare, for people who don't know anything about you or your history or this case, I don't know if it'd be better to write a letter or just a summary of everything that, just a summary of what you remember about this night to bring somebody up to speed on, what they charged you with, what your understanding of the situation is. And because I think a lot of people are confused on what happened. And when you start talking about the details of the shootings, I don't think they're following the conversation.
Yes. What we have is a prosecutor prosecution doing this on purpose to try to mislead anyone who wanted to try to follow up on this and straighten it out. It's got so many convoluted loops and turns, and it's got shingled layers of lie upon lie to cover one another, to the point to where it taxes a person's mentality to the point to where they want to give up after an hour and a half, because it is so damaging in the sense that you can see that it's on truth, based on truth and stuff like that, but you don't know where to start because it goes from the very beginning.
Right.
The officers.
Yeah,
yes.
and it sounds like it's very. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Here's what you do. Call or email Agnes and have her send a copy of everything that was sent into federal court on this last thing here.
Okay.
There's about 40 pages of things that lead from start to finish on this.
Okay.
There's a jurisdiction issue that starts from the very beginning, that the tribal police had no jurisdiction to be there that night because they had already executed an arrest warrant 3 days earlier, which was to arrest my father for failure to appear. And the failure to appear had not occurred because the appearance date was 6 days in the future. So his arrest was invalid. You can't arrest for somebody for failure to appear if the appearance date has not transpired.
Wow. Okay. All right.
And they based everything on that, and then on top of that, they coaxed Okanagan County to try us and convict us with $50,000. Okay, you do this and we'll pay for the court costs. That's what it was. It was a way for the tribal council then to avoid being prosecuted themselves for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder on a reservation. Now, they're all passed away, so there's nothing that the state or the federal government can do to any of them. They're all in the grave. But why should I still have to suffer for things that they did?
Right.
That's my big question. I didn't do anything wrong. I did what any soldier would do. Any soldier that goes into military service says that they will protect the Constitution and the laws of the land against domestic and foreign enemies. That's what I was doing. What are you supposed to do when the people that are sworn to protect you are the ones that are coming to invade you in the middle of the night and take your life? Right.
Well, let me, so just us in a conversation, and let me share with you my understanding so far, and you can help me out.
Yes.
Okay, so you were living on a Indian reservation in the state of Washington with your father.
Yes.
And there was a warrant out for his arrest, and the warrant was out for his arrest. And what were the charges? Why did they want to arrest him?
It was a Class D misdemeanor, trespass lands. He had went to a fellow native's place to ask the guy to finish paying for the two motorbikes that he had bought from Elmer for his kid. His kid is now a council executive, councilman on the tribe.
Okay.
That bill has never been paid. It was about that. I drove Dad up there that night to his place. Dad got out and went in and asked him if he would pay
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Which I believe was about $150. I don't know.
Okay. So we're going to run out of time. But there was a Class D misdemeanor. Who came on your reservation to arrest him? Who was it that actually, was it the FBI? Was it tribal police? Who was it?
Tribal police. The head of the council at the time called the tribal police to come and get him. He was aware of that, but they weren't aware of
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Of the way it was set up, and it was wrong. injured him. They dropped a file cabinet on his chest, a 700-pound file cabinet, and broke 7 ribs and gave him heart arrhythmia. And when they put him into the hospital, it was after he had been arrested and taken to Okanagan County.
Okay. Looks like we lost Patrick Hoffman. He's been in prison 32 years, and he's maintained his innocence the whole time, and we're trying to find out more information about his case.
You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from
Pat Hoffman.
an inmate at Washington State Penitentiary. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up. Thank you.
Okay. So hello. So let me just repeat what I know so far, and then you can pick up again. So there was a class D trespassing misdemeanor. There was a warrant issued for the arrest of your father, and it was 6 days in the future. And the tribal police show up in the middle of the night. What time did they show up, and what happened during this confrontation when they showed up?
Well, to start with, the arrest warrant was issued after my father received in the mail, before the postmaster, an envelope from the tribal council. He didn't look in it. He just had it returned to them. Okay. Then within the next 48 hours, they had prepared an arrest warrant based on failure to appear. They were planning on taking him in. See, the underlying issue of all of this is that Elmer was gathering information against the council and their corruption.
Elmer is your father, sir?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They had a drug ring going, and they were both users and purchasers and that sort of thing with that. And it was based on transport by some of these officers that were involved in this case, the federal officers. And also, there was gold being transported out of Mount Coleman in the amount of, we figured, $260 million in gold bullion that was 98% pure.
Well,
the Coleman project.
Yeah. No, let me back you up. You mentioned federal officers. It was the tribal police who showed up in the middle of the night, but I guess once the shooting occurred, that's when the feds got involved, the FBI and things like that. Is that when the federal?
Yes.
Okay.
It was later after the whole thing had died down, after all of the shooting and stuff, and there was a fire because I had put up flares to try to see who was attacking us. I had no idea who was there shooting at us. All I was doing was basing my actions on protecting my father from any further harm. I saw him go down, and when I got to him, I seen blood pouring out of his chest, squirting out in heartbeat form, and I immediately took out a hand rag and from my duffel bag and put on his chest. And when I looked around the corner to see if I could see anyone, immediately 3 shots came at me. So I took out my .45 and I answered 3 shots for each one in the direction of where they had come from. And
did your father survive that shooting? Did your father survive that?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't think he did at the time because I had to take him on my back up 400 yards up a steep hill embankment, and we got out of the way from there. And he said, "Put me down," and I put him down, and he says, "You're going to have to leave. I'm done for, and you're going to have to get out of here, or they'll kill you too."
Do you remember the date? Do you remember the date? I know it may be hard to remember, but do you remember the day this all happened?
Yes, August 27th, 1989.
Okay, all right.
At 2:30 plus in the morning.
Wow. Okay, all right.
The officers had been told by their superior officer, Chief Smiskin, to not engage them, to stand down. Since Mr. Smiskin and two of the other officers had been relieved from duty because of placing Elmer under arrest, and they expected a police brutality lawsuit from that, they were off duty. But he was still in duty, able to tell them what to do or what not to do. The assistant police chief, John Dick, decided that he was going to take it upon himself, and so he did, and put on a shooter's vest and went out, supposedly under his testimony, to clear the McGinnis property of alleged drunks on the property at 2:30 in the morning. He'd never done this before and has never done it since. And why would he put on a shooter's vest? Just to clear the property of alleged drunks. Both the officers wore shooter's vests that night. They had planned other things other than a simple arrest or anything else.
When you say shooter's vest, when you say shooter's vest, you mean bulletproof vest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned the tribal police. Your father was trying to expose corruption with them doing drugs and selling drugs?
Yes, within the tribal council.
Okay.
The tribal council, I had seen myself where a helicopter had landed during the the circle celebration, which is from the 4th of July until the 12th of July. There's native dancing there just across the street from the tribal council chambers. I had seen a helicopter come and land, and a guy in a suit get out with a black briefcase, or not, I'm wrong. A guy in a suit and tie and stuff get out of the helicopter with an aluminum case briefcase and walk to the tribal chambers, and when he come back 15 minutes later, he had a different briefcase, a black briefcase, leather covered. And I believe that there was a money and drug transaction that happened right in the tribal chambers.
You know, the CIA. I don't know. It sounds like you can't prove it, but it sounds like the CIA is notorious for running drugs within America and Central America. I've read all kinds of books about that.
Yes.
You mentioned something else about. You mentioned something else about gold earlier, but finish your thought. I definitely want you to finish your thought, but I want you to pick up on this gold thing, too, that you mentioned earlier.
Well, that was the tie to it. They were told to present this to the tribal membership, that they would have a corporation come in and set up a 50-year molybdenum mining operation at Mount Tolman and upgrade the steel in the United States that was being manufactured. Well, there were truckloads of molybdenum ore being taken out, but every Friday there was the last truck had something else in it. Dad followed that and found that there was a shipping place at Creston, Washington, and at Wilbur, Washington. The one at Wilbur was sending molybdenum ore to a smeltery refining place back east, and the one at Creston was also sending ore, but it was sending it to a gold smeltering refinery place. And what was happening was that they had went on the mountain and excavated and found the gold ore deposits and had core drillers drilling out the ore through the molybdenum and stuff, and then placing it in 35-gallon drums that could be enclosed and put in the bottom of the last trailer truck to leave on Friday night and that shipment was sent to that gold smeltering place.
Where in Washington was all this occurring? Is there a name of a town nearby or a city that would give us a location?
Yes, there's a train track for shipping and stuff that goes through Wilbur, Washington, and Creston, Washington.
Okay.
And those places, my dad knew the conductors that handled the movement of all materials there, because my dad was a federal officer that was a guard for Grand Coulee Dam for 22 years. Now, how can somebody that's been a federal officer and guard and not messed up his job any time in those 22 years all of a sudden turn into some kind of corrupt criminal? And the reason why is because the council had to make him unable to vouch for anything that he said, because it would cast aspersions on them.
Right.
It's
now. So your father is now deceased, right? Did he go to prison as well? He's now died in prison.
Yes, we received the same sentence. The action of the court was that they were supposed to find, in this case, they were supposed to find who was the perpetrator and who was the accomplice, and they were supposed to give the maximum sentence to the perpetrator and the lesser sentence to the accomplice. We both received life without.
Wow. What was the charges? I guess two individuals died that night in the middle of the shooting, and they charged you with murdering those individuals, even though they were the ones who initiated the violence?
There was one officer that passed away.
Okay.
The other officer had received a flesh wound underneath the arm in the trapezius area, and he was the one that I'm sure was the killer of the other officer, because he, during trial and before trial, everybody else had to turn in their weapons for testing for forensics and stuff. He would not turn in his weapon until mid-trial.
Wow.
And he was assured, I'm quite sure, that the prosecutor had assured him that he would not face any charges for what he did. Now, they had, during this shootout, there had been a lull, and I had heard somebody say, "You shot me, you SOB," rather than say the words.
Yeah.
And he fired. Whoever said that, it was, "You shot me, you," and pow, pow. And the bullets didn't come my direction. So I'm guessing that they were laying down together someplace hidden, and had reached into that altercation, and immediately I heard, fall back, there's too many of them." And this officer that got wounded left, and all the other officers that were there left. But this is something that I didn't know until way after, 72 hours later, that there were any officers there.
Okay.
I was surprised that there were people there after the fact. I didn't know. I couldn't see no uniforms, no nothing, except I saw somebody go over the fence below the house, and I took the last shot at them. I never hit them, because there was nobody that come up with a 45 wound, and that was the only gun that I shot at anyone that evening.
So just to be clear, you had a 45. The prosecution knew that you had a 45, but anybody that was shot did not have a 45 wound, which didn't match up with your gun.
Yes.
Wow.
And my dad had the 9mm. Now, they claimed that the 9mm shot full metal jacket, and that's what was taken out of the officer. But I tell you this, and it's supported by the evidence that's still held in court. There were 3 Winchester Super X 115 grain hollow point, aluminum hollow point bullets in the top of that gun. My dad claimed he only fired 3 shots. There was nothing else hit with anything like that. If he only shot 3 times, how could it be that the officer that died got killed with this gun, but was killed with the full metal jacket bullet?
Okay.
And here's the other thing: the first forensics report from the FBI at Quantico, Virginia, stated that the officer was killed by a full metal jacket projectile, probably from a 38 357 Smith & Wesson. Those were the guns that they packed that night, both those officers.
What do you think the motive would be for, you mentioned earlier that you think one officer shot another, and I guess you're talking about tribal officers. What would be the motive for one tribal officer to shoot another tribal officer?
Well, the motive is that the officer that shot the other one first saw Dad past him and tried to fire at Dad. And the bullet passed at the same time that the first officer shot. The other officer in between them stepped in the way of the bullet.
I see. It was like an accident.
Went through him.
Gotcha. Okay.
And hit my father. Now, that's one scenario. The other scenario is that upon being hit by the bullet, this officer in the lead was looking at my dad's direction also, and the bullet hitting him caused him to reflex and touch off a round that hit Dad that way. Both Dad and this other officer claimed that they were shot first. Well, if they were shot first, it had to be from one another, because Dad didn't shoot first, and if he claims he got shot first, then he can't be the one that shot first. Do you understand? There's no way that he can turn the gun around and shoot himself in the chest.
Yeah, it sounds like there's different.
A 9mm.
Yeah.
A 9mm KGB 99 has the model that I had a very short barrel on it, but it looked like a submachine gun. It looked like the World War II end of the war grease guns that were made by stamped materials with a barrel.
Okay.
But it had a very short barrel, but it was long enough that trying to turn it around and shoot yourself is an impossibility to do it in the chest. I got you. Yeah.
So you're thinking that the only plausible explanation for the shooting of this one tribal officer is it had to come from the gun of the other tribal officer, because it didn't match up. It didn't match up with the ballistics. Didn't match up with your father. I got you. Okay, very good.
Yes. And see, the original ballistics were sent back by the new prosecutor, because the prosecutor says, well, the defendants were firing a 9mm. This can't be right. So FBI changed their story back at Quantico, Virginia, and claimed that it was a 9mm. Now, in 92 or 93, somewhere in there, the head forensics officer at Quantico, Virginia, came forward at a news press conference and stated that he was resigning from the FBI because he could no longer condone the fact that the FBI was fashioning their reports to be most favorable for the prosecution, and they had been so damaging with their reporting and stuff that it was possible that they had influenced the outcome of the trials by what they had to say.
Okay, I'm very interested in this particular portion of our conversation, because I'm an advocate for how bad the FBI is. I think they've sent a lot of innocent men to prison. Do you remember that man's name? Because I would love to look up his name and find that press conference. You remember what year it was in? You remember what year it was in, or what his name was?
Well, I'm thinking 90. 1996, because it was after my wife and I had problems with the DOC here, and there had been a news conference that I had seen, and she had seen it too.
Okay. Do you remember what his title was? What was his title in the FBI? He worked at Quantico?
Head forensics.
Okay.
At Quantico.
Okay. I'll try to find that news story. Yep.
All right. I will call you again tomorrow or later today.
Okay.
I need to call Agnes now.
All right. Our prayers are with you, Mr. Hoffman, and I'm
Thank you.
God bless you. God bless you. We'll talk to you later.
God bless you too. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll try to get a request. We'll try to request people to send a request for a pardon to Donald Trump, and I pray he considers your case very carefully. That would be wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. God bless.
That's the blessing.
All right. Take care. All right.
Have a good day.
You too.
Have a good day.
You too.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye, Mr. Hoffman. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye now.